Welcome to Voices, a production of the Atlantic Caribbean Union of Seventh-day Adventists, covering the Bahamas, the Cayman Islands, and the Turks and Caicos Islands. On this special edition, we will be presenting an article entitled, Is God in Cyberspace?, written by Jorge L. Rodriguez, editor at Ayatpa and associate editor of the Elders Review. On July 3, 2016, Jorge had the joy of becoming an uncle. In spite of the fact that he lives in another city and can only be with her on a couple of occasions, Linfiel Yemer, his niece, had given him unforgettable moments in the few months she had been in his life. One of them took place the last time he visited her, when she was no more than 18 months old, and he would like to share it with his readers. While they were eating, his brother put the children's video on the iPad to entertain the little girl. However, since Linfiel was not interested in the video, she spent her time pushing buttons on the tablet. Soon he realized that she already knew the difference between pressing the main button, which took her to the home screen, and holding down the same button, which activated the device's personal assistant. Why does Jorge tell us this? Because he believes that even though we all say that technology holds an important place in our lives, many of us are not conscious of the significance technology has for our children and teenagers. Surprising statistics that are not so surprising. Two studies by the Barna Research Group produced the following data with respect to the role of technology in our homes. Parents depend on electronic devices as much as their teenage children. 32% of parents think that technology exercises a positive influence on their families, while 18% are sure that the influence is negative. 51% describe it as natural. Technology is the main reason parents think raising children is much more challenging than in past generations. Children spend an average of 5 hours daily using some type of electronic device. Even so, 60% of parents affirm that they limit how much their children use them. 7 of every 10 adults confess that they go to bed with their smartphones. And 8 out of every 10 parents of teenagers claim that their children also sleep with the phones by their side. 62% of parents say that the first thing they do when they wake up is check their phones. Of that number, only 17% say that they were using them to read the Bible or some type of spiritual meditation. Few families have received or hope to receive instruction from their congregations concerning technology. Only 42% of parents and 33% of teenagers showed interest in receiving instruction concerning the use of technology from a Christian perspective. What do these numbers mean? A superficial analysis of these statistics allows me to suggest two conclusions. The first is that technology already forms part of each aspect of our lives. We cannot divorce ourselves from it. It is in our offices, our living rooms, our bedrooms, and it goes everywhere with us in our pockets. In his book, The Tech-Wise Family, Andy Crouch said, "This change has come about overnight, in a blink of an eye. When previous generations confronted the perplexing challenges of parenting and family life, they could fall back on wisdom, or at least old wives' tales, that had been handed down for generations. But the pace of technological change has surpassed everyone's capacity to develop enough wisdom to handle it." According to Crouch, discovering the appropriate place of technology in our family life requires discernment and not a mere simple and mechanical formalism. Technology will take its appropriate place when it helps us to create bonds with people who are a part of our lives. Technology will take its correct place when it begins good conversations, when it helps us to care for our fragile bodies, when it helps us to attain and master the skills that define the glory of human culture: sports, music, art, cooking, writing, etc. When it helps us cultivate reverence for the planet in which we live and of which we are stewards. Technology will be in the correct place when we use it with purpose and caution. Thus, it's no longer a question of whether we use technology or not, but of how we use it. And if adults who often struggle to understand the newest things in the digital age are already prisoners of the various devices that invade us, what can we say about our children who, like Jorge's niece, learn to use a smartphone or a tablet even before they learn to speak? We will return to this topic further on. The second conclusion we can extract from the two studies cited previously is that as a Christian community, we are doing very little and sometimes nothing concerning technology and how we use it. Unfortunately, there are some who label it as diabolical and others who limit it to having a computer in the church to put on soundtracks and slides. A great part of the challenge we face when attracting young people to the church is due to the fact that we try to introduce them to a living Christ, but by using a dead language. We have a vibrant message, but sometimes we present it using archaic and old-fashioned methods. This new generation is begging us to update ourselves. When we return from the break, we will continue to answer the question, is God in cyberspace?
Seventh-day Adventist education is an opportunity for our children. The Lord had in mind a great plan to take our children to heaven. And Christian education is part of that plan. You know, Christian education means salvation because every Adventist teacher, every Seventh-day Adventist school is involved in saving our kids. Are you an Adventist pastor? It's your responsibility to inspire your children, the children in your church, to go to our schools, to our universities. Are you a church leader? You have the same opportunity. You are called to support them, to help them, to inspire them to study in our institutions. Are you a father or a mother? Well, the Lord has you in order to take your children to heaven. And Christian education is part of those resources left for you. Every one of our children should be in our schools. That should be our motto. That should be our goal, and the Lord will help us to achieve it. May the Lord bless you as pastor, as church member, as parent, and bless through you all the church children.
Welcome back to Voices. We are continuing to answer the question, is God in cyberspace, by presenting the article written by Jorge L. Rodriguez. God in cyberspace. About 3,000 years before the digital revolution burst forth, the psalmist wrote, "Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend into the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall fall on me, even the night shall be light about me. Indeed, the darkness shall not hide from you, but the night shines as day. The darkness and the light are both alike to you." And that's taken from Psalm 139, verses 7 to 12. 3,000 years later, have we human beings found a place where we can hide from God? Is God prohibited entrance to the virtual world? Or can we find him someplace within the massive internet? Keith Anderson, a Lutheran minister who has dedicated himself to using social networks to make disciples, said, "God is everywhere, even in the Twitterverse. And if the church fails to embrace that, it stands to lose its future members." Social media isn't just a tool. You can use information like the way we use a slideshow in the 1960s and 70s, said Drescher, Anderson's co-author. The church is slowly starting to acknowledge that social media is the landscape of communication, Drescher says. This is the medium where spiritual growth is happening, so we have to be working in that medium. Digital disciples. Our children learn from what they see and hear. At the beginning of Christianity, drawings, paintings, and church windows were used to instruct new converts and the little ones. The Reformation benefited from the latest technology of the times, printing, to spread its ideas. And since some decades ago, we have been using television by satellite to take the word to millions of people. Nowadays, we have Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. Are we taking advantage of them? What can we do with technology as a church is only limited by our imagination. Educational videos about biblical and denominational history, pictures and publications that deal with our distinctive truths, blogs that deal with topics of interest to our teenagers, transmitting our services by the internet, and much more. We can also use various applications to improve the worship service experience, beginning, of course, with reading the Bible, with apps such as YouVersion, that in addition to having numerous versions and languages, also offers reading plans and other resources. In the family environment, we can obtain devotional books in digital format, carry out study and prayer plans through apps for that end, and use instant messaging to share the Bible passages, videos with spiritual content, and messages of encouragement. Once again, the uses we give technology in training our children are only limited by our imagination. We do not have to see technology as competition for the devotional or religious lives of teenagers, but as a complement to them. Instead of restricting it, we should focus on it, since it is the medium in which they operate every day. While Jorge wrote these last lines, he was preparing to visit his niece once again, who was almost 2 years old. Even though he has given her paper books, he believes she will be part of the generation that will learn to love Jesus through technology. Since he wants to be an important part of the spiritual development of his niece and his own children when he has them, he is preparing to speak to them in a language that they understand. He wants them to find Jesus in cyberspace when they go there. Today, just by pressing a button or sliding a finger on the screen of any electronic device, a whole world of information opens up before us. Are we, as a church and as leaders, ready to unlock to our children and teenagers the immense love of Jesus Christ for them? Jorge hopes that your answer is a resounding yes. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Voices. If you have any comments or questions, or if you would like a copy of this article, please email us at voices@atcunion.org.